Hello everyone, Namaste. Welcome to Ayush Kama. Myself Dr. Neetu Singh from Ayush Kama Ayurveda Rishikesh. So today I'm going to discuss about pranayama, what is pranayama, and in our daily routine, daily life, how we can practice pranayama. So first of all, I would like to tell you about pranayama, what is traditional pranayama. So, traditionally, pranayama is prana ayama. Prana and ayama. Prana is vital energy, it is the essential energy of our body, and ayama means expansion. So expansion of your vital energy is known as pranayama. But how we can expand this? So according to Patanjali used to say that shwasa prashwasa yogatir vicheda. So shwasa is inhalation, prashwasa exhalation. When we break this Shwasa Prashwasa, inhalation and exhalation, when we interrupt this continuous inhalation and exhalation, that is known as pranayama. So how we can stop this, or how we can disturb this? So usually we only um, usually only focus, or we only feel in our daily life that we have breathing pattern of inhale and exhale, but we don't have only inhale and exhale. If you concentrate on your breathing, so you will found that you have retention, which is known as kumbhaka in the yogic language. Kumbhaka is retention of your breath. So we have inhale and a little retention. It depends. If we are practicing pranayama, so we have long retention. If we are not practicing, it's very quick. So because it is very quick, so many times we are not feeling this retention. So we have inhale, a quick retention, and then afterwards we exhale, and again we have retention. So in our normal life we also have kumbhaka in between of inhalation and exhalation. But what is pranayama? Pranayama is expand this kumbhaka. So basically kumbhaka is pranayama, or retention of the breath is pranayama. So whenever we are practicing pranayama, the purpose of pranayama is increase the time of kumbhaka, increase the time of kumbhaka, or increase the expansion, or increase the retention in our breathing pattern. So this is known as pranayama. But what is the need of increasing kumbhaka? Because how long we are able to practice kumbhaka, that much long we will be able to hold prana in our body. And prana is our vital energy, this is essential energy. So traditionally we have total 8 types of pranayama. Traditionally we have total of 8 types of pranayama. But in nowadays we have so many variations of pranayama. We have many pranayama nowadays in which we are not practicing essentially kumbhaka, we are just practice breathing exercises. So according to yoga, we used to say when we breathe, either inhale or exhale, we allowed mind to move. When we breathe, mind moves. Or we can say when any movement happens in our body in the form of breathing or blinking of the eyes or any kind of the movement, it allows the movement of mind. So if we want to stop mind, the movement of mind, then we have to stop all the kind of the movement. So how we can stop? When we used to meditate, so we close the eyes, so we close the movement of the eyes, but we continuously breathing, and because of that breathe we are not able to hold the mind in one point. So the purpose of pranayama is when we deliberately practice pranayama and increase the kumbhaka in our body, that pranayama or that kumbhaka can help at the time of the meditation. Or the other thing is, when we practice kumbhaka, we retain the breath at that time. Prana increase, the level of prana increase our body, and that level of prana can help at the time of the meditation for achieving my higher consciousness. So that is the basic purpose of pranayama, and traditional, that was the only purpose of pranayama. That is why we have only 8 type of uh, pranayama, which is known as ashtakumbhaka. So pranayama is equal to ashtakumbhaka, or 8 type of retention. So traditionally, if we are not practicing kumbhaka, it means that is not pranayama. But right now, in the name of pranayama, we are practicing so many breathing exercises. Of course, breathing exercises is very good for our system, because I will let you know about what is the connection of breathing and our body. So first of all, I would like to introduce you 8 type of pranayama, which is the ancient. So in ancient pranayama, we have Bastrika, which is the number 1 hottest pranayama. Surya Bhedana, the second hottest pranayama. Then Ujjayi is the victorious breathing pranayama. Then we have Shitali, which is cooling pranayama. Shitkari, again it is a cooling pranayama. Brahmari, which is humming bee sound, the humming bee sound. And Murcha, which is fainting pranayama. And Plavani, which is the floating pranayama. These 8 pranayamas are only known as pranayama traditionally. So these are known as Ashtakumbhaka traditionally. But apart from them, nowadays we know so many types of pranayamas, like Kapalabhati, Nadi Shodhana, Anuloma Viloma, so many types of Chandra Bhedana, Sadanta, so many. So what is the difference in between these and those? So those are traditionally, because traditionally uh, yoga is not to cure your body, yoga is to achieve something else. So but right now, if we variate some breathing technique to you can say to treat yourself, or to manage your body system, then we have to variate those traditional pranayamas. So we have to practice first these breathing exercises, and afterwards, when we have the balanced body, balanced mind, then I think we should practice the traditional pranayama. So in nowadays, we are practicing like Kapalabhati, Anuloma Viloma, Nadi Shodhana, and so many different types of the pranayama. The purpose of these pranayamas are different. Each and every breathing exercises or these pranayamas giving the different effect in our body. So if we discussed about Kapalabhati. So Kapalabhati is also traditional name, but it is Shatkriya, a cleansing technique. Why cleansing technique? Because it clean our body. Kapalabhati is forceful exhalation from your upper abdominal muscles. So when you exhale from your upper abdominal muscles, here anatomically we have diaphragmatic muscles, the diaphragm. So if we exhale continuously through the diaphragm, and diaphragm separates your vital organs, your liver and then upper respiratory system, and specifically it force your last lobe of the lungs through the exhale, so all the toxins can come out from your body, and it gives you the it detoxify your body and throw out all the toxins and gases, mm, the heavy gases from your last lobe of the lungs, which get settled down there because of our wrong breathing pattern. So normally how we breathe? Normally we are breathing like inhalation is longer than the exhalation. Again, I am repeating, normally everyone is breathing inhalation longer than exhalation. So when we inhale long, then we inhale a lot of gases, but because we have short exhalation. We have short exhalation. Due to the short exhalation, we are not able to throw out all the gases which we inhaled during the inhalation. So what happened? Those heavy gases get settled down in our breathing system, in our lungs. And because they settle down, and every day we are only inhale long, exhale less, so afterwards we are suffering with so many problems. We have toxins, we have disturbance in breathing, and we have so many problems. So we have to change this pattern. But how can we change this pattern, or what is the correct way of breathing? So normally, if for a normal person, how we can breathe, we have to first equal inhale and exhale. We have to bring equal inhale with equal exhale. What happens if we breathe in and breathe out equally? First of all, the way of breathing is very important. How we are breathing, it is very, very important. If we are breathing fast breathing, then we breathe short. We always breathe very, very short. So we only breathe from upper lobe of the lungs. We cannot breathe so deeply. So that is why we have again so many toxins, and there is some part of the lungs cannot move, and we have so many problems again. So what is the best way of breathing? The best way of breathing is slow breathing and deep breathing. Slow breathing and deep breathing. And with this slow and deep breathing, we should try to breathe equally. So equal inhale and equal exhale. With this, we should try to breathe equal inhale with equal exhale. So if we breathe deeply, slowly, and equal inhale and exhale, then it brings down all system of our body. Slow down means when we breathe equally and slowly. So first of all, the movement of the mind, which is a lot, and nowadays because we have everything in our life which is stimulate our brain, either this is phone, TV, everything, all the type of the thing in our life nowadays is only stimulating our brain. So if we breathe slowly and deeply, so it brings down the stimulation of the mind, and the mind get relaxed. When mind get relaxed, it relax your nervous system, relax your all the blood circulation, and it ultimately relax your all secretions of the body. So if we are suffering with all these problems, for example, we are suffering with stress, we are restless, we have some mental problems, or we have some secretion problems, enzyme secretion, hormonal secretions, or burning, or any skin problems or anything. So we should try to bring down our breathing pattern. Sometimes we don't think this, that only by changing the breathing these things can change. But yes, of course, only by changing the breathing pattern, only by changing or bring the breathing pattern slow, we can bring a lot of change in our life. So this is the one of the best way to breathe. So how we have to breathe? Slow breathing, deep breathing, and equal breathing. And I think most of the time we notice that if we are tired or if we are running, afterwards we are taking deep breathing, long breathing, and afterwards we feel relaxed. So if all the time we breathe like that, so it can bring a lot of change in our body. So how we can change this pattern in normally in our life? So for that we have to practice pranayama. So initially we have to consciously breathe slow, breathe deep, or practice some pranayama like anuloma viloma, nadi shodhana, kapalabhati, or simple breathing exercise. If you are confused that which pranayama I should practice, then you can simply just sit in the morning and you can just breathe deeply. Deep inhale, deep exhale, and equal ratio of inhale and exhale. So when you inhale, you can count mentally. So like when you inhale, so you can count 1 ohm, 2 ohm, 3 ohm, 4 ohm, like this. And same exhalation. So inhale, exhalation, if you bring them equally, so I think afterwards pranayama will be very easy for you. So now come back to the pranayamas again. So Kapalabhati I was discussing. So Kapalabhati, as I told you, is forceful exhalation from your upper abdominal muscles. Forceful exhalation from your upper abdominal muscles. So upper abdominal muscle, we have to underline this. When we exhale from upper abdominal muscle, we should try not to move any other physical body parts like the shoulders. Don't squeeze your facial muscles, or don't hunch your back, or don't move anything or any part of your body. We have to just push in and out the upper abdominal muscles. This is the best way of practice Kapalabhati. Kapala Kapala is skull and Bhati means shining. So Kapalabhati is a pranayama which brings skull shine. Skull shining means Kapalabhati stimulate your brain cells. It brings the energy all the way from your spinal column towards your upper chakra and stimulate your whole head region and increase the energy. So because we are forcing the prana, we are forcing the energy all the way up towards the head. That is why it is very, very important that during the pranayama we need to keep our spine completely straight. If we hunch the back, or if we move another body parts of our body, so prana stops there. And if prana stops there, then it brings discomfort to the body. It can bring maybe a little discomfort in your spinal column, discomfort on your neck, on your shoulder, on your facial muscles, anywhere wherever it stops. So for complete flow, or a like a free flow or comfortable flow of prana, we have to first check out the position all the time during the pranayama, or not only the Kapalabhati but rest of all the pranayama. So physical position is very, very important. Now the second main important thing about Kapalabhati is how long we are practicing Kapalabhati. This is very, very important. So Kapalabhati, we are forcing the pranaya towards the head region. So we have to make sure that we should not force this too much. Why? Because your brain is getting stimulated. So if you are a patient of high blood pressure, migraine, or history of brain hemorrhage or headache, or these kind of the problem, then you can face some problems, because it force or it move the energy and blood circulation towards the head regions. Then you can have headache, you can have dizziness, you can have vertigo, nausea. So we should avoid all these things. So how long we should practice? So initially we should only focus on our energy. So for example, if you are very first time practicing Kapalabhati, so you can choose 10 or 15 exhalation, 10 or 15 exhalation in one round. So 10 or 15 exhalation in one round you can choose. So when you feel after stopping, when you continuously exhale 15 times or 10 times and afterwards you stop, so observe yourself that how you feel afterwards. You feel extremely comfortable, you feel energetic, you feel completely okay, or you feel nothing. According to your body, always listen to your body, always believe on your energy. So if you feel too much comfortable, then next round you can increase to like 20 or 25. It depends on you. And if we are completely okay, completely energetic, then you can practice continuously this two more rounds, 15 and 15. And if we are a patient of heart problems, we have high blood pressure or low blood pressure or headache or migraine, so we have to careful. So I'm not saying that we should not practice Kapalabhati, because Kapalabhati have power to balance your system, but we should always count the exhalation and always listen to the body. So if you have high blood pressure and very first time you are practicing, so practice less, like you can practice 10. Watch yourself, watch your energy, and watch everything, your mental status, energy status, and then accordingly you can increase this. So maximum we can increase 150 exhalation in one round. 150 exhalation in one round, and when we can repeat this 5 times. 150 exhalation in one round, and we can repeat this 5 times. But this is maximum number. Minimum number can be 10, it can be 15, it can be 20, 25, 30, 35. Accordingly, according to body, according to the energy, we can fix it. So this is about Kapalabhati. And Kapalabhati, because I told you this is a cleansing technique, so it clean your body, it clean mind, it clean your all thoughts, it clean the energy, detoxifies your body. So it is wonderful pranayama. And basically it is a cleansing exercise. So we can practice this morning, we can practice this before asana, we can practice this after asana, or you can practice this 5 times a day. It depends on you. After Kapalabhati, we have another few breathing exercises which is not traditionally pranayama, but usually we call them pranayama and we practice them a lot. What is that? Nadi Shodhana, Anuloma Viloma. Sometimes we get confused with Anuloma Viloma and Nadi Shodhana. What is a Nadi Shodhana and Anuloma Viloma? So Nadi Shodhana is Nadi Shodhana. Nadi is your energy channel and Shodhana means purification. So purification of your energy channel is known as Nadi Shodhana. And Anuloma Viloma is Anuloma and Viloma. This is alternative. Alternative breathing nostrils is Anuloma Viloma. So what is the difference in Nadi Shodhana and Anuloma? Very basic difference. Nadi Shodhana is slow breathing and deep breathing. Slow and deep breathing, that much slow that even you should not hear your own sound when you breathe. That much slow. Anuloma Viloma is forceful inhalation and exhalation. So, force inhale and sudden or forceful exhale. Or if you don't feel comfort in force inhale, so you can slowly inhale and forceful exhale, like somewhere like Bastrika. But it is always start from the left nostril and right nostril, afterwards again right, and end on left. This is one round of Anuloma Viloma or Nadi Shodhana both. But we have to always focus on our breathing pattern. If I am making sound, I am forcing myself in taking inhale or exhale, or breathing in, breathing out, I am forcing myself during the in this pranayama, then it is Anuloma Viloma. If I am breathing very slow, very slow, either I am not able to hear my own sound, very slow, very deep, then it is Nadi Shodhana, and it brings a very big difference in between both of them. So Anuloma Viloma, because of forcing inhale and exhale, it is hot and vitalizing pranayama. And on the another hand, the Nadi Shodhana, because it is slow and deep, it purifies your nadis. So what is Nadi? Nadi is the subtle energy channel of your body. So we have to clean them by practicing some subtle exercise. So Nadi Shodhana can purify your energy channel by practicing or by breathing deeply and slowly. So if we breathe very slow without the sound, that is Nadi Shodhana. And Nadi Shodhana is a balancing pranayama. I am repeating, Anuloma Viloma is hot vitalizing pranayama, where a Nadi Shodhana is balancing pranayama. And it is a very big difference. So hot vitalizing pranayama having so many limitations with so many benefits. So what are the limitations? So limitations can be it is not good for immediately for heart patients, high blood pressure, headache, migraine, pregnancy, menstruation, neck pain, back pain, so many problems. And balancing pranayama is good for everyone. Balancing pranayama is either good for pregnant ladies, good for menstruation, good for insomnia, for all the type of the disturbance. It is good for stress, for everything. It is very good. And because it is balancing, so it balance everything or all the channels in our body. So balancing pranayama can be good if we have hormonal imbalance, if we have enzyme imbalance, if we have stress, which is the nervous imbalance. So any kind of secretion imbalance, any kind of nervous imbalance, we can practice Nadi Shodhana. So we can choose accordingly. So if I wants to clean myself, clean your nostril, and I'm completely good, I don't have problem of heart or dizziness or vertigo or nausea, pregnancy, menstruation, then I can choose Anuloma Viloma, because it clean your nostrils, it clean your respiratory tract, and it gives you energy, it increase the energy. And on the another hand, Nadi Shodhana is slow, deep pranayama, and balancing pranayama. It can be very good for insomnia. It can bring and make you sleepy. So if you are not sleeping in the night time, you can practice Nadi Shodhana, but Anuloma Viloma we cannot practice during the uh, uh, after evening or before sleeping. So this is the difference, and accordingly we should practice. So again I am repeating, there is a very big difference in between Anuloma Viloma and Nadi Shodhana. So if we want to suggest someone Anuloma Viloma, we have to careful and we have to ask them if they don't have any problems, and if we have problems, then we can practice Nadi Shodhana instead of Anuloma Viloma. So Nadi Shodhana is balancing, very good for and specifically very good for pregnancy, very good for insomnia, for stress person, very good. So according to their benefits and limitations we can choose, because Anuloma Viloma is energetic, so we have to count the rounds of Anuloma Viloma, and because Nadi Shodhana is balancing pranayama, so we don't need to count, their inhalation and or exhalation and their count. We don't need to count their rounds. So Anuloma Viloma we need to count, and we can practice accordingly. Again I am repeating, because in Kapalabhati, like I told you already, so same like in Anuloma Viloma, we have to listen to the body. But yes, of course you can practice this like 10 repetition, 10 repetitions. So one round or one repetition is inhale from the left, exhale right, inhale right, and exhale left. This is one round or one repetition. So accordingly you can practice 10 or 15, and afterwards stop practicing, listen to your body, watch carefully what is the change you feel after practicing, and afterwards you can decide how long you can practice. So maximum number of Anuloma Viloma, maximum you can practice this 35 to 45. This is the maximum number. 35 is I think more than enough. So you can practice this, and you can repeat these 35 in the form of 3 or 5 rounds. It depends, it depends on person to person. So accordingly you can practice. So this is hot energetic pranayama, so we can practice this when we are beginning the practice of pranayama. Like for example, if I am start practicing pranayama, so I can start this with Kapalabhati, afterwards Anuloma Viloma, and afterwards another pranayamas like cooling pranayama or chanting pranayama, these kind of the pranayamas. So afterwards, which in daily routine we are practicing pranayama after Anuloma Viloma and Nadi Shodhana, the most effective pranayama is Ujjayi and Brahmari. Ujjayi Ujjayi is victorious breathing. We called it breathing because we can practice this Ujjayi breathing 24 hours in the form of breathing, not in the form of pranayama. Because already I told you, pranayama is that where we are practicing Kumbhaka. So if, because Ujjayi is Ashtakumbhaka, so if we are practicing Kumbhaka, then we can call it Ujjayi Pranayama. But if we are only using Ujjayi breathing, breathe through the through Ujjayi, so we can practice this as a breathing pattern, as a breathing exercises. So Ujjayi basically is a victorious breathing, which is breathe from your throat. So you have to make a gentle contraction of your throat towards your neck, very gently, and when you breathe afterwards through your throat, so you will feel a sound or air passing from your neck. That is Ujjayi Pranayama. And you can hear very gentle or baby snoring sound when you practice Ujjayi breathing. Ujjayi breathing is a very nice, and it can be, again, it can be balancing or it can be energetic. If we are forcing ourselves in Ujjayi, then it will become the energetic, and if we are not forcing and breathing deep and slow, then it can bring the balancing pranayama or balancing breathing. So the benefits depends on us how I am breathing in Ujjayi. Basically, Ujjayi is completely different pranayama, and I think those people who are practicing yoga, specifically Ashtanga yoga, power yoga, maybe they have already heard that during these yoga or during these asana practices, the teacher used to say breathe from Ujjayi, and they all the time, like all the practicing of asana, they used to breathe through Ujjayi. Why we are breathing through Ujjayi? What is the reason during the asana we are practicing the Ujjayi? Why not other breathings? The reason is here, that is why Ujjayi is completely different from rest of the old pranayamas. The reason is Ujjayi have power to balance your breathing rate, respiratory rate, and your circulation. So when breathing rate becomes balanced and in your control, then it helps you not to get tired very soon. So if you are practicing power yoga, Ashtanga yoga, jumping back forward, or maybe you are practicing another thing, or you are running or something, so if we are breathing through Ujjayi, it helps us to practice more longer. Because if you are breathing randomly, so breathing, or you can say we are breathing fast usually when we are running, and due to the fast breathing, we have a heartbeat which is the very quick and very short heartbeat. So heartbeat increasing, and quickly we have sweating and we get tired very very soon. So how we can practice and use Ujjayi? So by the using Ujjayi, we can balance respiratory rate, or you can say you can control your respiratory rate. And when your respiratory rate controls, then your heart rate controls, and afterwards the temperature of your body can be controlled, and you cannot be tired very very soon or very quickly. So that is why we can practice Ujjayi. Apart from that, whole day you can practice Ujjayi is very very nice breathing, because it is breathing from the throat. So it helps you to maintain your body temperature in and out, and your balancing your circulation of the body, heart rate, breathing rate, pulse rate, everything. So overall this is very very good exercise. And according to pranayama, if we practice this, then we have to practice according to pranayama, and we have to practice kumbhaka, either antar kumbhaka or bahir kumbhaka. So we have to decide that we are practicing this as in the form of pranayama, or we are simply just breathing in and out as a breathing exercise. So this is about Ujjayi. Now come to Brahmari. So Brahmari is humming bee sound, so we called it humming bee sound, but it is, again, it is Ashtakumbhaka. Ashtakumbhaka means we should also practice this with kumbhaka, antar or bahir kumbhaka. But if we are not able to practice kumbhaka, or if we have problems, any physical problem, then we should not practice kumbhaka. So how we can practice this? So we can just simply practice this: inhale completely, and when you exhale, you have to touch your tip of the tongue to the upper palate and chant Nkara. So when you chant this, the sound comes which is Nkara, N for my name, that is Neetu. So you can chant Nkara sound. Why we chant Nkara sound? We usually, because we close the lips with this Shanmukhi mudra, we close everything, all the openings of the face. So that is why we are not clearly hear the sound of N, we hear this Mkara. But Mkara is high vibrational sound, because it is a sound of Om, A, U, Ma. But in Brahmari, this is a feeble, the less frequency sound, less frequency, or you can say feeble frequency. And because it is the lowest frequency, so it affects first on your physical body, it affect on your cellular system. It is wonderful, one of the main pranayama which can change your cellular system. So if we have any problems related to cells, cell formation, so cell formation, like pregnant lady, she need a lot of cells, so she can practice whole period of pregnancy, even afterwards, after the delivery she can practice, because she need a lot of cells to recover herself. And we have so many problems like tumor, cancers, we have healing, we need healing. If we have cut, surgery, or these kind of the things, then we can practice everyday pranayama, this Brahmari. So Brahmari can replace, because of this, the subtle vibration, the very subtle and very feeble vibration of Ankara, it replaces the old tissues with the new tissues. So we used to say this is making tissue formation. This is very useful for tissue formation. So when we have new tissues in our body, so it acts as a healing, it acts as a for heal everything. So for ulcers, for wounds, for skin problems, it is very very nice. And Brahmari have one of the beautiful effect of mind, that it also heal all the mental injuries. So you can say, like, if we have anything, any guilt or any burden or um, anything which is not healing mentally, or we are getting hurt with something, or something which is very trouble us internally, so we can heal up with Brahmari pranayama. And the same benefit we can have with the Bastrika, the healing. So I will discuss Bastrika later. Okay. So Brahmari is balancing, or it is a humming bee, subtle vibration sound. So we should practice Brahmari at the end of pranayama, the last pranayama. So we should start always practicing pranayama with energetic pranayamas like Bastrika, or like Kapalabhati, or Anuloma Viloma, Surya Vedana, like these. And afterwards, in the meantime, in the middle, we can practice, like, for example, Nadi Shodhana, Ujjayi, Shitali, Shitakari, and afterwards, at the end of the class or at the end of your practice, you should always end with Brahmari Pranayama. So Brahmari is a subtle vibration, and you can feel the vibration around your head, but when you continuously practice Brahmari, so the vibration goes down towards your body, which I think very gross way we cannot feel, but yes, the vibration goes. So how many rounds we should practice? So maximum number of Brahmari we can practice 35. Maximum repetition in one round can be 35. This is maximum. So if you are beginner, or if you have some problems, so you can start with 5, 7, 10, something like that, and you can practice this maybe one round or two round, it depends on you. And when you practice every day, you become master of this, then you can practice maybe 20 and repeat this 3 times or 4 times. So you will feel, if you practice Brahmari a lot, it seems easy, and it seems, wow, it's a wonderful, it replaces the tissues, but it makes you tired. If you practice a lot of Brahmari, you will feel tired, you will feel dizzy. So always listen to your body while practicing this is very important, to always count your rounds, count your repetition, and choose repetition, and choose according to your body capacity. So maximum I'm telling you, and accordingly you can choose by yourself. So you can maximum practice 35, and you can repeat this 3 times or 5 times, because this is vibrating pranayama, so we should not practice this in lying position. If we have some problems, specifically like after delivery, I told you, she can practice, or if we have surgery or some kind of the problem, so we cannot sit straight, but we can practice Brahmari. So how we can practice? We should always keep the head up, so we can lean back but keep the head upward and the lower body down. So like that we can practice Brahmari. So quickly I will let you know about a few more pranayamas, which is like cooling pranayama. In cooling pranayama there is Shitali, Shitkari. There is one more, that is Satanta, but in some books they merge into two or some in three, so don't get confused. So we have cooling pranayama. Cooling is, as I am saying, this is cooling, so it is having cooling effect. Cooling pranayama we should practice, but we should always look at the weather, what is the weather outside and what is my physical body. So cooling is in Ashtakumbhaka. That is why the cooling pranayama is more effective when we practice this in the form of Ashtakumbhaka or during the Kumbhaka. So if we have problems or imbalances in our body, specifically with kapha disorders. Kapha disorders means if we have cough, congestion or cold or asthma or bronchitis or these kind of the problems, or we have constipation, then we should not practice this. Or along with hot pranayama, extreme hot like Bastrika, we can combine this cooling pranayama. So always practice this with a combination. So cooling pranayama is like Shitali and Shitakari. So Shitali is rolling the tongue like this. You can keep it in your lips, or you can roll back your tongue. Shitakari and Sadanta is clenching your teeth together. In both of these pranayama, you have to breathe in from your mouth and breathe out from the nose. Breathe in from your mouth and breathe out from your nose. This is one round of this cooling pranayama. Again, breathing needs to be very slow and deep. Don't force yourself for breathe in or breathe out. Breathe slowly, and try to make equal inhalation with equal exhalation. So and this can be a one round, and according to the weather you can go. So maximum 15 repetition we can practice, 15 repetition in one round, and we can practice 3 round. This depends according to the season, according to your physical condition. So minimum you can practice 5, 4, 7. It depends on you, and it depends on weather. So these are the pranayamas which usually we practice. And Bhastrika, yes, Bhastrika is Ashtakumbhaka, the number one pranayama, highly energetic pranayama. Bhastrika is the hottest pranayama. It is the hottest pranayama. It increases the body temperature very quickly. So if you try Bastrika, after few rounds you will feel heating sensation from your ears, from your cheeks. So that is the hottest pranayama. And why this is number one pranayama? Because Bastrika helps us to clean the internal energy or clean the aura. So it throw out all the guilt burden from our consciousness. So if we have some burden in our consciousness, Bastrika can clean that. So before Bastrika you can think about that, and with each exhalation you can throw the out and it can clean it. So with because Bastrika is a Kumbhaka, Ashtakumbhaka, number one pranayama. So Bahir Kumbhaka or external retention can be very very beneficial with Bastrika. If you are not able to practice Kumbhaka, then you can simply inhale and exhale. So how we can practice Bastrika? Bastrika is complete inhale and forceful exhale. Complete inhale and forceful exhale. That is one round of Bastrika pranayama. But Bastrika is exhalation from your throat, not from your belly. This is the difference in between Kapalabhati and Bastrika. Initially, when we start pranayama, sometimes we got confused in Kapalabhati and Bastrika. So there is two big difference in between Kapalabhati and Bastrika. In Bastrika, we inhale and exhale afterwards, and exhalation is forceful. And Kapalabhati is only exhalation. In Kapalabhati, we have passive inhalation, or you can say inhalation happens itself. But in Bastrika, we have to first inhale and afterwards exhale. This is the difference. Second difference is Bastrika is exhalation from your throat, or you can say upper thorax, and Kapalabhati is exhalation from your upper abdominal muscles. Kapalabhati is cleansing, or in Shatkriya it is the kriya or the technique in Hatha Yoga, but Bhastrika is Ashtakumbhaka, the first main pranayama or the first main technique which increase the level of prana in your body. And Bhastrika makes Bahir Kumbhaka easy. Bahir Kumbhaka is, or you can say, external retention. After exhalation, retention is known as Bahir Kumbhaka. So Bahir Kumbhaka is very difficult and initially very difficult, which Bhastrika makes easier. So that is why Bhastrika makes the Kumbhaka easier. And another benefit of Bhastrika and as well as with Kapalabhati, that it brings natural Kumbhaka, which is known as Kevala Kumbhaka in the terminology of traditional or the yoga. Kevala Kumbhaka, Kevala Kumbhaka, Kevala means only, and Kumbhaka means retention. When we have only retention, or you can say when we have natural retention. So, for example, if you are practicing Kapalabhati, when we have less rounds of Kapalabhati, so it is very difficult to feel that Kevala Kumbhaka. But if every day you practice Kapalabhati and you reach, for example, 60, 70 or 90 or 100 or 150 repetition in one round, and when you just stop your first round, so you can feel that Kevala Kumbhaka. So at how you can feel, you will feel there is no inhalation, no exhalation, and your body don't need to inhale and exhale. Again, I am repeating, when we stop practicing one round, second round or third round, just right after the stop of the practice, then we can feel the natural retention in our body. Then the body don't need to feel inhale or exhale. That is known as Kevala Kumbhaka, and that is the period where we have natural prana, or the movement of the mind naturally stops when we have Kevala Kumbhaka. So Bhastrika and Kapalabhati brings this very beautiful Kevala Kumbhaka, and at the same time when we have that, at that time you will feel the amazing the mental concentration, or your mind can stop in one point. That is the beauty of Bhastrika and Kapalabhati which brings. So uh, uh, one more thing which I forgot to discuss about Bhastrika is how many rounds we should practice Bhastrika, because Bhastrika is hot energetic pranayama. So we should always take care with Bhastrika that we should not suggest them immediately when we start, when someone is starting practicing pranayama first time, second time, third time. We should not suggest them to practice Bhastrika because this is the hottest pranayama, and specifically for the people suffering with heart issues, having the high blood pressure, low blood pressure, pregnancy, menstruation, or ulcers, hernia, or migraine, headache, dizziness, spine problems, spondylitis, or any kind of these problems. We should prolapse, or so we should not suggest them Bhastrika. So we should always be careful when we suggest Bhastrika. We should maybe ask them, or when if we are completely okay to practice, or few days or maybe months you are practicing continuously Kapalabhati, afterwards you can try Bhastrika. So before practicing Bhastrika, we should few days or few weeks, we should always first become master of Kapalabhati, or we should every day practice first Kapalabhati, and afterwards we can practice Bhastrika. So the maximum repetition in one round is 90, 90. This is the maximum number or maximum repetition in one round, and these round you can repeat 3 or 5. And minimum it depends on you. Again, it depends on energy, so you can start with 5, you can start with 7, or you can start with 10. It depends on you, and afterwards listen to your body, watch your energy, and afterwards gradually you can increase. in each and every pranayama we should gradually increase the number of repetition and gradually increase the round, and always watch yourself and listen to yourself about all the type of the practice. The best time of practicing pranayama is in the morning, best time in the morning, but some pranayama we can also practice in the evening, like ujjayi, Brahmari, Nadi Shodhana, we can practice also in the evening, or Brahmari, Nadi Shodhana, Ujjayi, you can practice these before sleeping as well. If someone is suffering with insomnia, uh, or stress, they can practice Brahmari, or they can practice Ujjayi, and specifically Nadi Shodhana before sleeping. And if they feel difficulty in practice Brahmari, then you can just suggest them to practice Nadi Shodhana. But make sure that they are practicing Nadi Shodhana, not Anuloma Viloma. So always ask them to practice slow and deep breathing. So these are the pranayamas which we can in daily life we can practice. When we are practicing pranayama, we should always few things which is we should always practice or keep in our mind. What is that? Always sit in very comfortable position. Spine needs to be straight. If someone have knee problems, having arthritis or having some kind of problems, they cannot sit on the floor with crossed legs, then they can sit on chair, but keep the spine straight. It is wonderful if you can achieve some meditative posture like padmasana, sukhasana, or any other posture, doesn't matter. So we should try to sit on the floor, on the mat, and we should practice this early in the morning, and keep the spine on the always straight. Relax your face, your neck, shoulder muscles, always relax. If we squeeze them, because prana gives a flow, we be, due to according to the channels, through the channels prana moves all over the body, and if we squeeze any part of the body, prana stuck there, stop there. So we should try, or the whole part of the body needs to be relaxed, and then we should practice pranayama. Always we should choose few pranayamas. Don't practice all these pranayama in one day. Choose them, which pranayama is most comfortable initially, and afterwards you can practice the another pranayamas. So choose according to you. So for example, like if you are starting, so you can start with kapalabhati, afterwards you can practice nadi shodhana, afterwards you can practice ujjayi and brahmari, or you can practice anuloma viloma, afterwards ujjayi, shitali, and brahmari. So like this you can make a combination in which you have one hot pranayama, one balancing pranayama, and cooling, maybe cooling according to weather and according to your mental condition. You can practice and make the combination, and afterwards choose those pranayama and practice those pranayama at home. You can practice, but every day we should practice these breathing exercises. And when traditionally we are practicing pranayama, then pranayama is actually when we are practicing kumbhaka, in between the inhalation and exhalation. So pranayama basically is the practice of kumbhaka, but breathing exercises is when we are trying to control over our breathing, and we are trying to make them slow, deep, and balance in our control. So either I am worried, either I am running, but my breathing is in my control. That is basically the purpose of practicing these breathing exercises. And the main purpose of pranayama is practicing kumbhaka, so that we can practice retention of the breath, and during this retention we can have the excess amount of prana, and due to this excess amount of prana we can use this amount of prana for achieving our higher consciousness. This is the purpose of pranayama, because when prana when breathing stops, mind stops. So ultimately, to stop my mind, I have to stop breathing. But stop breathing is not holding your breath forcefully. I have to control my breathing, or I have to change my breathing pattern, so that naturally I can have the kumbhaka, and I can become master of my mind. That was the only purpose of practicing pranayama in the ancient time. But just by changing the breathing pattern, or just by practicing the breathing exercises every day, we can make a big change in our body. We can change the breathing system, heart rate, pulse rate, breathing rate, all the secretions, hormonal secretions. I think we can fight with each and every physical problems in our body. It can be stress, it can be migraine, it can be headache, everything we can treat only by practicing breathing exercises. But the problem is, we start practicing breathing exercise when already we have a lot of problems, and we are not practicing them properly. We only focus on the technique. What is the technique? So kapalabhati, okay, exhale from the upper abdomen, but we never focus how long we should practice. And afterwards, because we never count them, we are not focusing what is the proper way, then we have the contraindications in our body, and afterwards we said no, it doesn't work, so we stop practicing them. So my request to all of you, that first we need to know the proper way of practicing, and always observe yourself after the pranayama, or after the practice and before the practice, and observe, count them, observe yourself before and after, and listen to your body. Always listen to your body. You can also write down your breathing pattern, how long I am inhale, how long I am exhale, what change brings this breathing. Observe everything, and then you will feel very nice, and you will be very happy when your physical body will always support you, and with your mind and with your energy. So this is all about pranayama. And we also have the YouTube channel by Aishkama Ayurveda Rishikesh. So you can also follow us, where I already post so many types of the different pranayamas, and I'm continuously posting some pranayamas and some different videos. So you can also follow me with the Instagram, Facebook. And if you would like to know anything about pranayama, meditation, or anything about yoga related to Ayurveda and yoga, so you can message me in the comment box, or you can individually in a private box, you can message me. And if you would like to discuss another topic, you can suggest me something, and I will definitely speak on that. Thank you so much for watching me. Thank you so much. Namaste.